Hello YouTube! Today we are gonna be talking about the hit amazing game from Kuro Games called Wuthering Waves. I'm sure a lot of people have seen other streamers, content creators checking out the game. We're gonna be going over the comprehensive list of pros and cons, in my opinion, from what I've experienced from the closed beta 2. Hopefully Kuro Games will pay attention to this video as well as other content creators who are making their own videos. Obviously these are my subjective opinions. I might not be right. I'm sure some people might disagree. You can disagree in the comments or at my Twitch stream, which we're recording this right now at twitch.tv/VodMaster with a 4. We're gonna go through the pros first. Gonna say all the nice things about the game before we absolutely roast it. I'm gonna be honest, I think this game, it is right now, is a solid 7.5 out of 10. That's like maybe being a little generous in its current state. I think they still have a lot of small things to work on. If you guys don't know, right now Wuthering Waves does have a paid beta in China, which essentially means that this is their last beta. Obviously they have their license up until October, so they can release it in the next 6 to 7 months and still be fine. I'm sure they can work on it and fix a lot of things in the 6 to 7 months. But the first and foremost biggest pro, can't show it to you right now because they disabled it due to a massive bug. Initially they had 120 FPS. 120 FPS. It's disabled right now, but surely it will be fixed on release. It did work for the first couple days, so that is a big dub. Genshin still couldn't do that. 3 years, almost 4 years now. Who knows when they'll do it? Probably never. Next thing I will say, I think everybody knows. I mean, maybe not everybody knows here, but if you guys don't know, they have made another game called Punishing Gray Raven before this, and they're known for very great music. Amazing hits like Narwhal. Boss music is amazing. Obviously, I've heard some people disagree and say the boss music is generic EDM. I think they have terrible takes. It is unfortunate that they have terrible taste in music, but I think the boss music in this game is amazing. Listen to the Inferno Rider music, right? Look at that. Right? The Inferno Rider music is great. Crownless music, I'm sure everybody has heard if you've been paying attention to the game since CBT2. Very good. Music is great. Very good. Next pro, free 5-star at rank 45. I'm gonna go into this in the cons here as well later, but it is a little mixed bag. We do get a free 5-star at rank 45. Obviously, I think this will take most players about a month or so or more to reach. It is a bit out there, but it is a nice thing. Follow up to that is gonna be great news for most people who are coming from Hoyo Games, the guaranteed weapon banner. So essentially, you are guaranteed a 5-star weapon in 80 pulls. Now, if you're coming from Genshin, you're like, oh my god, do I need to go 2-3 pities to get my weapon? No, you literally need to just go once, right? It is guaranteed at 80 pity. Now, obviously, I'm sure the soft pity is like 60, 70, somewhere there, but it's pretty much guaranteed to get the weapon you want. There's no 75, 25, 50, 50, nothing like that. There's no off banner, nothing. You are getting exactly what you're going for. So, another great dub. Next pro. This is a big one. I'm sure a lot of people, when you run into other games, right, Genshin, etc., you could essentially just hold W and just run over stuff. It is very nice. They have vaulting. I could pretty much vault over cows, sheep, just like that. Look at that. Oh, flawless, beautiful. Movement in this game is amazing. They have this little grappling hook as well. Obviously, you guys will all remember the great gliding tool. And this is the best part right here. One of the biggest pros. Look at this. Oh my god. I'm sure a lot of Genshin players will remember trying to climb anything and you're like, oh my god, there's a little cliff over me. I'm just stuck and you just fall down. This game, if I could find a oh, just like that, do a little backflip and just climb right over. Amazing. Because it is a beta, it is a little finicky. Sometimes you do get stuck on things, but for the most part the movement is amazing, really smooth. I will say they do need to fix a little bit of glitching through the walls. I have glitched through the walls a couple times, just randomly climbing things. I think that's just a beta issue. I'm not too worried. On top of this is going to sound even better. Running out of combat does not take stamina. I can pretty much just run endlessly. The only time it takes stamina is when you're in combat here. Like you'll see. If I aggroed these weird forearm guys. Now my stamina is just draining. But essentially, out of combat, you can run infinitely. Next pro is the hardcore content availability. One of the biggest gripe more hardcore players is that games like Genshin still have the same 12 abyss floors. There haven't been really any challenging content, right? Even things like Vagabond have been nerfed, right? Guess what? This game on release, on rip, is coming out with the Depths of Elusive Realm, which are basically going to be like your simulated universe. You basically go through the floors, pick up different buffs. It's a roguelike. It's very nice. Has its own set of rewards. Very, very fun. You get to even turn into specific echoes to fight. Very, very cool. comes with, on top of that, your Tower of Adversity, which is its own form of Abyss. There's basically a beginner floor, which is just one side, and then there's like an advanced floor, which is two-sided, and then there's another tier above that as well. So it just goes on and on. And then last but not least, probably what most people have seen the most footage from are these hologram bosses. These hologram bosses are absolutely like Souls-like bosses with new and newer mechanics. Every difficulty level, they are going to be absolutely the best content, I think, for most people who are interested in hardcore content. I do think most casual players may not be the most interested in this because it does get a little sweaty. It is very, very fun, and the difficulty scale up all the way. Difficulty 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, very nice. And at difficulty 5 and 6, they get even crazier with some new mechanics on top of that. The rewards are, for the most part, right, for any casuals that might be worried, they're not too crazy. You know, they seem to be permanent, not going anywhere. So I believe casual players, eventually when they do reach higher levels, will be able to come back to this and maybe, you know, tackle it. Probably get a clear, not probably the fastest clear, but get a clear nonetheless. Next, Pro, the ecosystem, right? It is their pretty much system, very similar to kind of Pokemon's or Persona series, or I guess you're like a JoJo fan, they're kind of like stands as well. They're essentially your little pals from Pal World. You can choose which creature you can have as your third ability, essentially, aside from your burst and your skill. They have their own individual cooldown. They have their own individual utility, abilities. Some of them can be defensive. Some of them can be completely utility-based, like going underground, or some of them are just entirely offensive. So it's a very cool system. On top of that, it is a new take on the artifact/relic system. A lot of you will be familiar with the relic system in Star Rail as well as the artifact system in Genshin. This is a completely different take, and I think it's a very unique take. They have multiple different costs, so you can do variations of 4-4-1-1 or 4-3-3-1-1, etc. There's variations. There's 5 sets. You could do 2-set, 2-set. This is basically the end game farm, but it doesn't end there. There are also shinies. They're essentially shiny versions of mobs. This is an example of a boss shiny. We have the Morning Ikes here, non-shiny, and then here is the shiny version, right? So eventually the end game, I'm sure for a lot of casual or even hardcore players, will be eventually filling up their entire Pokédex with shinies, and you can show off those shinies and maybe even get really good stats on those shinies. I will say currently the implementation of shinies are not too crazy. Shinies seem to have fixed spawns and shinies can be bought from the shop. I feel like that kind of takes away from the fun, but I'm sure that's probably not what their intentions are. I think they're probably intending to make it RNG based and make it more of a fun hunt. One of the best things I think that came with this beta, it is the co-op experience. Like I said with the ecosystem, it's basically your relic system, your artifact system. This is gonna be what you're going to be doing day to day to farm your echoes. Now, obviously, for casual players who don't have as much time, this might not be as viable, but it's still going to be pretty fun whenever you do have time with your friends. Hop into a world together and kill mobs together. You can share worlds with each other, a way to increase the number of mobs you can farm daily. Obviously, each set of mobs respawns daily, but, you know, if I'm done with my entire world, I can go to my friend Extracts. Oh, and look, I got a bear drop, as well as Extracts can get the same bear drop as well. So it's very nice. It basically gives a reason to do co-op content. I think a lot of people have missed co-op content in these games. Here in Wuthering Waves is a very big reason to want to do these, because it will increase the amount of echoes you can farm on the daily by like double, triple, depending on how many friends you have. If you don't have friends, make an alt account and just join your alt account. On top of that, even if my friend here wasn't near me when I killed those echoes, he still got the echo drop. I will say though, it is completely independent. Each person gets their own echo drop. So even if he gets a drop, I might not get a drop. Regardless, it's still a great source of entertainment as well as more things to do. Last two right here for the pros. The fact that we can buy, so constellations, eidolons, they're called sequence nodes in Wuthering Waves. You can buy sequence nodes of characters that you already own, or maybe you don't even own. Obviously, I don't think buying sequence nodes for characters you don't own is a good idea because you can't do anything with it. Don't do it. Let's say I own Jianxin and I own 2 Encores. I could buy more Encores, buy more Jianxins, and increase their sequence nodes. At this point, we aren't sure whether or not this limit refreshes. For all we know, you know, maybe they might not. So you can get up to sequence 2. It is very nice that you can essentially, at some point, from rolling on whatever characters that you are rolling on, eventually get enough of the, they're called afterglow corals. you'll be able to get enough to eventually purchase dupes. That leads into my last point. I am a Danjin main. Why am I maining Danjin a 4-star? It is because in my experience with Wuthering Waves, and this is a completely free-to-play experience, I have 0 sequence nodes on her, and I have been able to clear pretty much all the content I've wanted to clear with her as a 4-star, right? She is strong enough to solo most of the content if I wanted to at level or even under level. I think that is a great thing about a game, that free-to-plays or maybe low spenders don't have to feel pressured to want to get 5 stars, right? Essentially 4 stars are good enough, and that is really, really important. Now we are going into the con. Now you could call me a bit critical of the game because I am going to be nitpicking here a little bit, but I really want this game to be good. I want some hardcore gameplay, and Wuthering Waves has that. And I want this game to be successful. I really just want a Punishing Gray Raven open world. And if we get, that might just be the best game in the world. Probably one of my biggest gripes are the font. I don't think the font for the game is very pretty. I think it is a little... I mean, this is very nitpicky, right? I'm starting with very nitpicky, like small things. The font is not a lot of people's favorite. I think a lot of people have said it looks like Tower of Fantasies. Not saying Tower of Fantasy is an awful game, but font in Tower of Fantasy isn't that attractive. We don't like that. Hopefully they can change it. I do know that the font changes between languages. It definitely does seem to look much different depending on the language. I definitely feel like the font can be changed. A couple more smaller things. 100%, one of my biggest gripes is you saw me kill Inferno Rider here, right? One of the issues with this is eventually you as a player, you're gonna start wanting to farm a specific boss because you're maining that specific element, because that boss is going to be at the core of your echo build. Guess what? It's just really annoying when you don't know the respawn timer. I could kill the Inferno Rider, and at this point, I pretty much just ballpark when it'll be up again. I'm assuming it's like 5 minutes or so, but I don't know. Sometimes when you're just playing the game, 5 minutes can go by instantly. Kind of just ballpark it. It's still annoying, especially once you start looping between multiple bosses. You want to kind of have an idea of which ones are up again. So I definitely think they should add boss timers. The other thing is, you might have noticed it earlier when I was in the co-op world, co-op minimap indicator. I really think the way co-op works right now, I don't know if you saw earlier, essentially, I don't know where my friend is if they're outside of this radar. I would have to press M and look around and look for them. I really feel like the radar should have a little indicator on the cardinal direction in which they are standing, so that I could head towards that direction. Let's say we were just farming here right next to each other, and then I looked away from the screen, and then now he's like maybe far away and he's just out of radar range, right? I should be able to tell, oh, it's like he's in this area, right? And just head toward this direction and find him. I feel like that's just a small thing, really easy to add, nothing crazy. Another small thing is, I really feel like this game should have a buff bar. I know other games don't. That shouldn't mean this game can't. There are a lot of buffs in this game. There are character intro, outro buffs, other characters, echo buffs as well. Like with this turtle buff, essentially I have to just like look at my character and be like, am I shiny? That's just a bit annoying. I should just be able to look at my bar and be like, okay, I got the buff. I shouldn't just have to stare at my character through the billions of effects that are going on and be like, am I shiny or not? That's a bit hard to keep track of. I definitely think buff bars should be added as well. Probably the last small nitpicky thing is going to be an elevation map. I find a lot of times as I'm trying to find my way, especially around Tiger Maw, this is the biggest offender here, especially Tiger Maw. So if I'm looking at this TP and then this TP, you're like, wow, that must be both on the same elevated platform. Nope, I'm at the bottom of the hole. Maybe something you'll get used to. I've pretty much gone to the point where I put a waypoint at specific elevations, circumvent this so that I can go to specific tunnels and stuff like that. It's like, okay, now look, I'm deep underground. Very nice. This is nowhere near any of these other TPs. These are like thousands of feet above me. And I feel like elevation maps would be really helpful. Last two small things before we get to the really big thing. It's gonna be a retry button on hologram bosses. Essentially right now, if I go fight one of these big hologram bosses, let's say I fail. The only way to start again is having to sit here and wait for all my characters to be killed off and then go through a loading screen and then choose the battle again, and then go back into it. This is really easily circumvented by just having an escape and retry button. So if I go into here, it'll essentially give me the option to press P to give up. The thing is, if I press P to give up, it doesn't reset my character's HP bars. Uh-oh, I'm dead. And let's say I press P, and I want to give up. I press P to give up. Now both of them are dead. I gotta go to another teleport, heal them up, and then come back. How about we just get a restart button? I'm sure people make a little mistake. Someone dies, one character dies. You don't want to wait for all three of your characters to die to get a full heal. It's just too much. The last one right now, I will say, is localization. I really hope localization is fixed. Currently, right now, The game has a lot of English localization issues. For all I knew, Danjin Sequence No 2, if I got a whole second copy or third copy of Danjin, I'm getting 3% HP. That's disgusting. What? I don't want 3% HP, bro. Another big thing is, let's see our beautiful Sanhua. I have gone through all her sequence. I got her last copy, Sequence 6. She got Yang Yang powers. What? She's not Yang Yang. This is Sanhua. It's just a lot of silly localization issues. Not even gonna go into the weapons. There are weapons that do things that they don't even remotely do. I get this is a beta. I'm really hoping that the English localization side is gonna lock in for the release and fix a lot of these issues. It also happens a lot in story. There are translation issues. There are dialogues that feel a little weird because it's translated weirdly. Into the nitty gritty here, we're gonna go into the ecosystem. I know I made a lot of compliments about the ecosystem, but the ecosystem has a lot more issues. So the biggest issue, the echo inventory. If I currently want to delete some, mind you, this was a complaint since closed beta 1. That I don't know why they have not made any changes to this since closed beta 1. This is ridiculous. Essentially, if I want to delete any, I have to go one by one pressing confirm. And for some reason, it scrolls me to the top every time. Please let us mass select, delete 10, 100, something at a time. Maybe select all of a rarity, something like that. We do get a lot of trash fodder farming. On top of that, this will relate to something I'll say later. Deleting echoes should give something. I don't know if it's shell credit, which is pretty much a universal currency that is used for everything, purchasing stuff, leveling stuff, etc. Give us something. Personally think the best suggestion is we get some type of small fragment of echo exp that we could trade in for actual echo exp. You know how like other games give you a little bit of reward if you go do that extra degenerate farming, people who do full rotations on HSR or artifact rotations on Genshin. There's absolutely no value besides farming echoes and maybe hunting main stats to like farming hundreds and hundreds and thousands of these. Why am I making a point of giving exp? Right now, at this very moment, if I go to the main base here and spend 40 energy for echo exp, I get like nothing. I'm gonna clear this. Let's see how much we get. This is RNG drop too, by the way. It's not guaranteed. Here we go. We're killing these mobs. Very nice. Yada yada. All right. Here we go. This is 40 stamina. Oh my god. 1 gold, 2 purples. This is actually a good run. Now, how much do you think I could level an echo with that? You're gonna get to this point very quickly. We're leveling gold echoes, right? So let's take this gold echo, Bellborn. So it was 1 gold, 2 purples, and 2 blues, I think. Oh my god, level 8. Woo! Level 8, baby. We're going somewhere. No, this is awful. And you know what the worst part is? Here, I'll even sacrifice it. I'm gonna do this. It's like, oh wow, crit damage main stat. What is this gonna roll? Oh, flat attack. Yeah. This is garbage. I'm throwing it out now. And guess what? That EXP I just invested into this, now I just lost like 30% value on it when I feed it into the next piece. On top of how little EXP we get for farming with stamina, it's just like layers. And now this is going into the next part. The substat. I'm sure a lot of people here are used to like games like Genshin and Star Rail having specific low rolls, mid rolls, and high rolls. Wuthering Waves takes that and bends it in another twist never before seen. They are definitely revolutionizing it in a bad way. I can roll 5.2 crit rate, 5.3 crit rate. By fact that you can roll literally decimal points from, I don't know, like 3 all the way to like 14 is crazy. I really think they should condense that to be like, okay, maybe you can roll a 3.5. The mid roll is like a 6. Okay, now maybe a mid high roll could be a 10 or a 9. And then the high roll is at 14, 13. I just showed you leveling up that turtle, getting that flat attack. Guess what? The material I use for that is not free. Here we go. Now I plus tendon. Now I have another slot. When I do this, this is another material that I have to burn stamina for. Right? This is why I'm addressing this. There's a misconception for a lot of people coming into Wuthering Waves, seeing things on the surface level. They think, oh wow, you can farm echoes for free, non-stop. No, sure, you can get the Pokemon for free, but you want to level them. The rare candy costs stamina. You need tons of stamina to do this. And the worst part is you don't get the fusion mat back. Let's say if I throw this out, it'll give me nothing back. But let's say I feed it into our Thundering Mephis buddy right here, right? Am I getting the full 10 levels? No, I'm getting 8. And when I do this, do I get any of the tuning mats back? Nope. It's just level on level, layer on layer of RNG, and it's just too much. Now you're seeing some of these subsets here being like, wow, okay, you got crit rate on every single piece. Yeah, I farmed this game for 20 hours. I'm not assuming most of you will have 20 hours to farm this game non-stop. I joined my viewers world non-stop every day. Probably killed about 300 of these flowers for this one piece. And I just happened to get lucky on these rolls, by the way. The ecosystem, I like the way it works in terms of, okay, it's cool. We get to turn into these creatures. We get their skills. But the nitty gritty of it, the substat rolling, the tuning, it's just, you know, the lack of EXP, it is just very, very grindy. And it is a really badly implemented system. Now, why is it that bad? It is because they have their own version of domains, artifact domains, relic domains, and it's called tacit fields. If I go in there, it is a locked set of mobs, exactly the same mobs every time. A lot of those mobs I don't want, and they're not even guaranteed to drop for burning stamina. You're gonna get literal trash every day for 60 stamina. That's awful. Realistically, is to open world farm for 2-3 hours a day to get maybe 1 or 2 good pieces. Good main stat, right? Because you don't know what their subsets are. That's a really bad way of implementing this. They really need to change this tacit field if they want more casual players or just people who don't have that much time. Because let's be honest, I'm sure there's tons of hardcore players who don't have 3 hours to spend on Wuthering Waves, right? The best way to fix this is they need to make it so if I go to this tacit field, let me click this, choose what 1 cost mobs are going to show up, choose what 3 cost mobs are going to show up, and when I kill them, make it a guaranteed drop. That's the ecosystem. Next, the weapon availability for free-to-plays. Going through a lot of the weapons, pretty much all the weapons available free-to-play are not crit-based. And sure, is that fine? Yeah, other games don't really have that as well. Like, you know, Genshin, sure, it has Blackcliff. HSR's got the Herda Light Cone for crit, for Hunt. It's just, there's absolutely no free-to-play crit weapons. And as far as I've seen, Wuthering Waves does not have a system like Hyper Bloom or EM-based abilities or Nihility, where you don't really need to opt into crit. Eventually, the end game of all these builds are gonna be crit. And it's like, okay, but Fob, there's free craftable weapons. There are. None of them are crit either. They're all attack percentage and energy regen. This might low-key be how they kind of give a little nudge to the player base and be like, okay, all right, there's no crit weapons. Y'all need crit weapons. While you roll on the guaranteed banner. Oh, this weapon is crit. Ooh, crit damage. And then we got, ooh, crit rate, right? Like, roll on these. Maybe it's their way Kuro Games is doing to balance it out. There is a free 5-star weapon at 45. This is why I put this in the pro. It is very good, but that's just one. As far as we know, there's not going to be more. If you want to build more than 1 character, which you need to because Abyss has 2 sides, unless you're going to play the same class of weapon, I guess, everywhere. Who wants that type of restriction? Unless you want to have more freedom in building other characters, you're eventually going to want to build other weapons, which will eventually lead you to swiping for them. Feels a little stinky, right? I don't really like it. And on top of that, this is kind of exacerbated by how hard it is to get these crit stats. Feels like the game pigeonholes you into almost wanting to swipe. Now, you don't have to spend that much, right? Technically, if you want to be a low spender, or if you are a low spender, there is the Battle Pass weapons, which do have an array of crit weapons. It is very nice, right? And Battle Pass, I don't think is going to cost that much, but for free-to-play, it is a bit stinky. I currently am playing a complete free-to-play Danjin, and I have finally reached 49.4 crit rate. That is pretty good. No, it's not. That's pretty awful. I do not have any space to opt into crit damage. Now, you're looking at this and be like, wow, you got 160 crit damage. That's a lot. That 1 is a lie in front of the 60. This is 60 crit damage. That 100 is base. So this is 60 crit damage, as you think from other games. So my crit ratio is 50-60. Nobody wants 50-60 for the crit damage ratio. That is probably one of the bigger cons, in my opinion, about the free-to-play availability of weapons. I really don't think it's that good. This is gonna be another big thing that I've experienced as like a new player. I think they really need to fix this, and it is the camera system. The camera system coming into this game at its base, untouched, nothing. It's got max camera shake. It's got stinking battle camera correction. It's got camera. All of these are on. And for a new player, these are awful. Essentially, what occurs is you're gonna be battling something, and if you're on some remote hill, you know the camera's gonna go into the ground, clipping into the cliff. You can't see anything what you're fighting. You don't know what's going on because the camera is trying to balance the terrain with the mob you're fighting, and it's just all over the place. Kuro Games, by default, should have battle camera and some of these camera settings off. Let people turn them on if they want it. Wuthering Waves' horizontal sensitivity movement is slow as a slug. I had to raise this to 85, and it still feels a little slow. I feel like the default setting should be a setting that a lot of people will find fun, will love. But right now, it's just not there. there. Adding on to that, it is not helped by the awful auto-targeting system. I'm sure you've seen people like Rexcellent complain about this, but the auto-target system is awful. There are bosses in this game that literally have instant transmission and shumpo moves where they teleport. You know what the camera does? The camera's like, okay, we're locked. Okay, just kidding. I've lost it. Where is it? Whoa! Really need to fix that because bossing is one of the biggest draws of this game. Auto-target is so important. You need to be able to track the boss. The next thing, this is going to be a smaller gripe, but it's something that other people have mentioned as well. And I think some people have gotten a little bit of flack for this. It is gonna be about the music. The music in this game, boss music, spectacular. I, at this point, memorize every boss song. If you played that boss song for me, I could tell you which boss it is. But there's just a lot of places in this game where I don't really feel the switch in music I do in some other games. The best example here is, maybe we'll use Genshin Impact here. I'm sure most people, when they got to Dawn Winery, they hear that music, they're like, oh, damn. And it's like that whole vibe. You feel the change. You'll know that song instantly. It just really has the different vibes that are completely missing in this game. I will say the songs here and there are okay. Right? Obviously, I think the city music is fine, but like if I'm going from region to region, there's no place in Deserock Highland that I'm like, there's a classic Deserock music. No, nobody knows what Deserock music. It all sounds exactly the same as it sounded over here. Very, very small changes in music. I literally have been playing this game non-stop and I can't remember the song still. I'm listening to it every day. Outside of boss music, I really don't. And I'm someone who has been fully rotating the whole map to farm. And now, probably one of the last couple cons here. Character design and skill progressions. Let's go with character design first. There's been a lot of talk about character design. I personally think Wuthering Waves, character design wise, has so much potential. Unlike some games we know, don't have this thing where they like to do short characters, medium characters, and tall characters, and everybody's in those categories, right? We have characters that are varying in between. There's characters all over the place. Very nice. Also, personally, I think the modeling in this game is way prettier. For the original cast of characters so far, I just don't feel a lot of them stick out. There's a couple, but none of them really stand out to me. I feel like they're a bit watered out. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. I did put this in the con because I do think for release, Dion and Yinlin do look good, but out of the standard cast, I'm not really convinced. That is the second to last con, and then here is the final two con that we're going to go through. It is skill progression. As you see, I am currently Union level 34. This isn't close to endgame. Technically endgame of like actually Union levels. You saw this bar right here, and you saw that I've only progressed my character at half of her potential. You'd be like, okay, she must have like a lot of abilities to unlock, a lot more things to do. No, she's got nothing more to look forward to. Yeah, some elemental damage and attack percentage, I suppose, but like that's like very boring. Essentially, I have nothing more to look forward to at this point. I really feel like the skills should have a bit more. Even HSR, they have nodes that are pretty impactful for their build, or maybe some type of extra ability, passive something. But it feels like, considering I'm only halfway done with this character, I've already reached a limit for her potential. I get more levels I could do. For the most part, it feels like there isn't much more to grow. I wish there was more to do, more to get passive wise, maybe ability wise. Maybe that's just me and my like progression mentality. And then the last con I will go through is the story. I get that Kuro has redone the story. It's alright. When you start off, it's really slow. It does really drag on. My biggest worry is that it takes so long in the beginning. They introduced suddenly all of these characters, very big character as well. There's just a lot of stuff that is dumped on you in the beginning, and that is going to be the cons. And now the last couple things are gonna be like the questionable things, the unknown things, maybe at some points of discussion is gonna be the free-to-play economy. At this point, it's very hard to tell how many roles we're gonna get, what the pre-registration rewards are gonna be, how many events are gonna be out in the beginning. We don't know what re-rolling is gonna be like for free-to-plays. Like as a free-to-play, will re-rolling take me 2 hours? Or will it just take me 5 minutes? We don't know. So that's going to be a very big point of contention for when the game releases. I really hope Kuro knows what they're doing for balancing on rewards. Next thing is going to be patch frequency. We don't know. I mean, at this point, it seems like it's going to be about a 6-week cycle, much like Genshin. That's what they're going for, but that's also going to directly affect free-to-play economy as well. We also don't know how they're doing regions, right? Is there going to be a whole new area every patch, maybe every couple patches, or is it going to be like 1.0 is just this region, we have to go all the way to 2.0 for another whole region. We don't know how that's going to be. Probably my biggest unknown is going to be, and I did delve in this earlier, is going to be shiny hunting. I really hope that they implement shiny hunting properly, because the current system is really, really stinky. Because I feel like this is a long-term community aspect of the game that could really, really make it fun. You can co-op echo hunting. Now imagine co-op shiny hunting. I feel like there's a really good potential where they can add on to this and be like, make it really rare, but when it is found, it's like a big thing. It's like, oh my god. I do see some people taking advantage of this, being like, I found a shiny monkey. Who wants a shiny monkey? $20 each slot. I could see people doing that. I really hope they focus up and implement the shiny system properly. I hope you guys enjoyed this little rant here. I don't know if I've covered everything. I've tried to cover as many things that were on the top of my mind. Obviously, I try to be as comprehensive as possible. I'm sure there are a lot of content creators, a lot of other people within the community, individuals as well, that are probably have way more suggestions. If you do have any suggestions, leave them in the comment. If you do want to drop a subscribe button. I am live every day on Twitch from 3:30 Pacific all the way to I don't know when. Play every gacha under the sun, as well as variety once in a while. So if you want to check it out, twitch.tv/fawmaster with a 4. Thank you. Bye-bye.